a nation on the brink. In recent months, Canada has found itself on the edge of a political and economic precipice, as its government faces increasing pressure both domestically and internationally. With a backdrop of heightened tensions in global trade relations and internal turmoil, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's leadership is being called into question. At the heart of this crisis lies a complex set of challenges, ranging from trade tariffs imposed by the U.S. to a growing internal backlash against Trudeau's leadership. The question that now looms large is whether Trudeau can maintain his grip on power, or whether Canada will see a dramatic political shift in the near future. One of the most significant factors contributing to Canada's current instability is its strained relationship with the United States, particularly under the leadership of former President Donald Trump. Trump's rhetoric before assuming office had already signaled a hardline stance against some of America's closest trading partners, including Canada. He frequently targeted Canada for its perceived lack of control over its borders, accusing the country of allowing illegal immigration and drug smuggling to spill over into the U.S. These issues, according to Trump, contributed to rising crime rates and an influx of undocumented migrants into American cities. Trump's administration imposed tariffs on Canadian goods as a result of these concerns, with the potential for additional punitive measures hanging over Canada's economy. This shift in U.S. policy created a sense of uncertainty in Canada, a country that relies heavily on its trade relationship with the U.S., which accounts for 80% of its exports. A sudden increase in tariffs could potentially cripple Canada's economy, leading to widespread business failures, economic collapse, and a decline in the living standards of ordinary Canadians. The economic consequences of a potential 25% tariff on Canadian goods are significant. Canada's economy is deeply integrated with the U.S., and a sharp decline in exports would send shockwaves through various sectors. The Canadian automotive industry, for instance, is one of the most vulnerable, as much of its production is geared towards the U.S. market. Other industries, from agriculture to technology, could also see their profit margins shrink as U.S. tariffs make Canadian goods more expensive and less competitive. Such tariffs would also have a profound effect on Canadian consumers. The cost of everyday goods, including vehicles and electronics, could rise, making it more difficult for Canadians to afford necessities. The ripple effect through the economy would likely lead to job losses and corporate bankruptcies, further exacerbating Canada's already fragile economic position. At the heart of Canada's political turmoil is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, whose leadership is being increasingly questioned by opposition parties and members of his own government. Trudeau, who assumed office in 2015, has faced a series of challenges, from domestic policy failures to scandalous revelations about his past actions. His handling of the economy and trade relations with the U.S. has been a particular point of contention, with critics arguing that his government has been too slow to respond to Trump's aggressive policies. In addition to the external pressures from the U.S., Trudeau's government is also grappling with significant internal challenges. Several high-profile resignations from senior cabinet members, including the Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister, have raised questions about the stability of his government. These resignations, coupled with a growing sense of disillusionment among the Canadian public, have led to widespread calls for Trudeau's resignation. The political opposition in Canada has seized on these challenges, calling for a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister. Trudeau's Liberal Party, which has historically maintained a strong hold on power, is now facing mounting pressure from both the New Democratic Party, NDP, and the Conservative Party. The NDP, which helped Trudeau form a coalition government after his election, is now publicly calling for his resignation, accusing him of failing to deliver on key promises related to housing and the environment. Meanwhile, the opposition Conservative Party has seized on Trudeau's political vulnerabilities, questioning his ability to manage Canada's response to the U.S. tariffs and his failure to prevent a potential economic collapse. If a vote of no confidence is called, it is widely believed that Trudeau could be ousted from power, as his party lacks the necessary support to survive such a vote. One of the most striking developments in Canada's political crisis has been the wave of resignations from key members of Trudeau's cabinet. These resignations, which have included the Minister of Finance and the Deputy Prime Minister, are seen as a clear sign of discontent within Trudeau's inner circle. Many political analysts view these departures as a reflection of the deepening divide within the government over how to handle the escalating pressure from the U.S. The resignation of the Minister of Finance, in particular, has been a major blow to Trudeau's leadership. This individual was seen as one of Trudeau's most trusted allies, and their departure has left a significant power vacuum within the government. The fact that the Deputy Prime Minister, who was tasked with managing Canada's response to the U.S. tariffs, was also absent from key discussions about the country's economic strategy has further fueled concerns about the government's cohesion. The current political crisis in Canada is not just a matter of internal government issues, it is also a reflection of the country's divided political landscape. The opposition parties are united in their criticism of Trudeau's leadership, with both the NDP and the Conservative Party calling for his removal from office. These parties, while ideologically different, share a common goal in challenging Trudeau's handling of the economy and his failure to deliver on key policy promises. However, the opposition parties are also dealing with their own internal divisions, which could make it difficult for them to form a unified front against the Prime Minister. The NDP, which has been a longtime partner of Trudeau's Liberal Party, is now openly calling for his resignation. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party, which has traditionally been more right-wing in its policies, has positioned itself as the main alternative to Trudeau's leadership. While the political instability within Canada is certainly a significant concern, the ongoing tensions with the U.S. remain the primary driver of the current crisis. Trump's decision to impose tariffs on Canadian goods has placed Trudeau in an incredibly difficult position, forcing him to navigate the delicate balance of maintaining a positive relationship with the U.S. while also protecting Canada's economic interests. In recent weeks, Trudeau has sought to repair relations with Trump, even going so far as to travel to Trump's private residence to discuss the issue of tariffs. However, the results of these discussions have not been made public, and many political analysts remain skeptical about the effectiveness of such diplomatic efforts. The fact that Trudeau was unable to prevent the imposition of tariffs in the first place has left him vulnerable to criticism from both the opposition and members of his own party. Canada's strategic response: can diplomacy save Trudeau's leadership? In response to the growing threat of U.S. tariffs, Canada has taken steps to address some of Trump's key concerns. The government has announced plans to invest nearly $1 billion in border security and anti-crime measures, specifically targeting drug trafficking and illegal immigration. These efforts are aimed at appeasing Trump and preventing further trade restrictions from being imposed. However, it remains to be seen whether these measures will be enough to change Trump's stance on Canada. Even if the Canadian government is able to convince the U.S. to lift the tariffs, the political fallout from Trudeau's handling of the situation may prove too much for him to recover from. The pressure to resign is mounting, and many Canadians are beginning to question whether Trudeau is the right leader to navigate the country through these turbulent times. As Canada faces a potentially severe economic crisis and growing political instability, the question remains, will Justin Trudeau survive as Prime Minister? With opposition parties united in their calls for his resignation, and internal unrest within his own government, the political landscape in Canada is more uncertain than ever. While Trudeau may still have time to regain control of the situation, the likelihood of a vote of no confidence or early elections seems increasingly probable. The coming months will be crucial for Trudeau and his government. With the U.S. relationship in flux, internal divisions widening, and an economy teetering on the edge of collapse, Canada's political future is in jeopardy. Only time will tell if Trudeau can turn the tide and keep his leadership intact, or if Canada will see a change in direction at the highest levels of government.